Okay, good evening, everyone. And I apologize, I went to the wrong BCTC, so I'm sorry. No, luckily it was empty. So as some of you who were at the last LG&E KU public meeting, we were at the Leestown Rose campus. I'm glad for your sake that we weren't there because the traffic was horrible again. But I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I will go ahead. I know many of you are anxious, so I will go through this hopefully really quickly. But if you have questions, so my name is Linda Bridwell. I'm the Executive Director of the Public Service Commission. So we are here tonight for a public comment meeting for LG&E KU's rate cases that are case number 2025-00113 and 2025-00114. And I want to make sure that I emphasize those case numbers because if you are interested in submitting comments, written comments either through our website or mailing them in or however we do it, you need to make sure you're referencing the case number. So I'm going to do, let me make sure, which way am I pointing tonight? Oh, sorry. Okay, so for those of you who've been to these meetings before, this is routine, but I'll go through it for those of you who may not have been before. We're happy to have you here, but I'll go through the meeting agenda really quickly. I will do a very brief overview of what the case is. And when I say brief, it's a very, very high level. We do not go down into the weeds about the details in the case. This is part of the process, and I'll explain that a little bit more as we move along. Then we will go into, if you have questions for the staff, you may ask them at that point, and then we'll move into the public comment period. Once we get into the public comment period, the commissioners are not able to answer questions, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask questions. This is your opportunity. If you have questions about the case that they may not have thought about them, it may be something that they are also interested in. But I want you to understand, if you ask a question, we're not able to answer it tonight. It's just what is on your mind, what are your thoughts about the case. The public comments are documented. They're in writing and they're filed. There is also a video tonight for the public comments that will be in the case record. It takes us about 24 hours to upload it. We are not live streaming tonight. But once we get into the case, you can watch the evidentiary hearing live on our website. But the transcript will be on our the video will be on our website in about 24 hours. So just to give you an overview, if this is your first time meeting with us, the Public Service Commission was created in 1934. There are 3 administrative members who are appointed by the governor that act in a judicial manner. So that's why when I talk about that they cannot answer questions in this case, and that these are really the judges in the case. That the commission is serving the utility, makes an application to increase their rates. The interveners and other parties who may be opposed to certain aspects of the case also put their case on, and the commissioners serve as the judge. So we regulate more than 1,100 utilities in the state of Kentucky. We're funded by an assessment that is paid for by the utilities, and it's based on the interstate revenues for each utility throughout the state. This is one of the most important things that we're looking at, and this comes back to the judicial nature of what the commission does. Every utility shall furnish adequate, efficient, and reasonable service at a fair, just, and reasonable rate. So the commission is looking at, when they're making a determination, making sure that service is being provided adequately, safely, appropriate level of service at a fair, just, and reasonable rate. And that part's very important. And again, that's why the commission is looking at the balance, what's appropriate between the customers and the utility to make sure that the utility stays financially valuable and is ordered to continue to provide service. So I want to make sure that everyone understands utilities are not competitive in the state of Kentucky. They're not competitive businesses. That's why we have the Public Service Commission. They are monopolies that are regulated by the Public Service Commission. The utility rates and services are regulated to protect against the risk of poor service or a monopoly in excess profits of the cost. So that's really the point of the regulation. So changing utility rates is a legal process. And so again, the commissioners serve as a judge. It is governed by the statutes and regulations. So there are things that the commission can order and things that they cannot order. And sometimes that is dictated by what's in the regulations, what's in the statutes. The utility files an application, including what's considered written testimony, just as if you were asking questions orally, but they write it out. They ask themselves questions, they provide the written answers. The rates are then suspended, so they usually propose that the rates be increased in 30 days, but the rates are suspended for 6 months beyond that period. Parties may intervene. They must be represented by an attorney to intervene in the case. The parties respond to requests for information, including the utility. Then the commission will generally hold an evidentiary hearing. And that's just like you might see on TV. Witnesses are sworn in. They are asked questions by attorneys. They are sometimes asked questions by the commissioners. The commission also has staff that may ask questions through their attorney in the case. And then a final order is deciding the matter is issued. The public comments may be filed at any time during this process. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So if this is your first time learning about the case, or you just have a little bit of knowledge and you were coming tonight expecting to hear a lot about the case, and you said, well, I don't feel comfortable standing up, I want you to know this is not your last opportunity. So there are opportunities throughout the case up until the final order for you to issue, for you to provide public comments. So one of the things I like to make sure that I'm emphasizing here when we talk about it, so the rates must enable the utility to provide adequate service. So they must have adequate capacity, adequate service lines. They must maintain their financial integrity. So you don't want a utility that is bordering on bankruptcy, that is making decisions based on whether or not they're going to have enough cash at the end of the month. They need to be able to attract investors. Why is that? Because utilities are very capital-intensive businesses. It takes a lot of investment money to build the infrastructure required. So they need favorable terms for the loans to make it the cheapest for the ratepayers in recovering that cost. I also just want to mention, and we get this a lot, why can't you just lower rates? Why can't you just not allow them to raise the rates? The U.S. Supreme Court has held that rates that do not allow for this are unconstitutional, that it's considered a taking of property. So that's one of the things that we're specifically looking at, is how to balance what's appropriate in the application. So I'll talk a little bit, this is a little bit about both utilities. I suspect that most of you are customers of Kentucky Utilities, just if you're from the Lexington area, but if you're not, I'll give you a little bit about both utilities. So Louisville Gas and Electric generate and purchase electricity, distributes and sells electricity in Jefferson County and portions of 8 surrounding counties. They purchase, store, transport, distribute, and sell natural gas, also in Jefferson County and a portion of 16 surrounding counties. They have 335,000 gas customers and 438 electric customers. So not all of them are combined. Sometimes they have a few more electric customers or electric-only customers. Their last rate increase in their base rates was in 2021. And again, it was similar to this case where both utilities filed at the same time. So what they are asking for in this case, Louisville Gas and Electric has proposed an increase in electric rates, which will result in a $104.9 million increase in revenues, or 8.3% increase in the revenues. The proposed gas increase will result in, I'm going to have to turn this way, $59.5 million additional revenues, or 14%. The proposed average monthly bill for a LG&E customer, a residential electric bill, will increase by $11.04, which is 10% for residential customers who are using the average of 866 kilowatt hours a month. The proposed average monthly residential gas bill will increase by $11.12 or 14.9% for customer using 52 cubic feet, 100 cubic feet of gas, which is their average usage for residential customers. So about $11 on both the gas and electric for Louisville Gas and Electric. So according to the application and the information that has been submitted, the request is driven mainly by the capital construction projects that they have in the works. Kentucky Utilities, as some of you may be more familiar with, generates and distributes, sells, and electricity in 77 counties across the state in central, northern, southeastern, and western Kentucky. So they have 547,000 customers, and the last rate increase again when base rates was in 2021. Just to give you an idea, they are both owned by the same parent company, so that's why when they apply, they usually do both companies apply at the same time for their rate increases, and they've been doing that for a number of years now, definitely over a decade. So. Okay, so Kentucky Utilities rate increase, what's proposed tonight, or proposed in the application, is an increase in electric rates resulting in $226 million or a 11.5% increase in the revenues. The proposed average monthly residential electric bill will increase $18.15 or 13.6% for customers using 1,085 kilowatt hours per month. So as you might have noticed, KU customers on average use slightly more electricity than the average LG&E customer per month. According to the applications, again, the primary driver for the application request is the capital construction. So what LG&E and KU have also asked for is a new tariff for extremely high load factor, an EHLF tariff. This is specifically representing data centers, high demand usage data centers. One of the things they're asking to go ahead and put in the tariff, right now they have not brought us a contract. I'm not aware, although I know they have been talking in other cases, that they have a number of facilities that have or companies that have talked to them. They have not brought us anything specifically for approval. But to go ahead and put it out for public consumption, they are asking for a tariff increase, a tariff that would include a requirement in order for this tariff to apply for a 15-year contract term. This would be a large demand, which they consider over 100 megawatts, and then a very high load factor above 85%. They're also asking for a revised net metering tariff. So this is for folks who have their own generation. It's typically for solar facilities that may be a residential solar facilities and have applied for and receive our net metering customer, which means that on the days that they are generating more electricity through their solar than they are using, that they put it back out on the grid, essentially selling it back to KU, and they are asking for a change in their tariff there. So to give you an idea of who the rate case intervening parties are, and these are, the two are just a little bit different. For KU, the intervening parties are the Attorney General, KYSEIA, Kentucky Industrial Utility Council, the Sierra Club, Walmart, Lexington Fayette Urban County Government, Kroger's, the Kentucky Broadband and Cable Association, the Department of Defense, and the federal executive agencies as one intervening party. Then there is a group of joint interveners that have filed together, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, Kentucky Solar Energy Society, and the Metropolitan Housing Corporation. So a lot of folks ask about this, and so the Attorney General specifically is the only party that is granted automatic intervention. They are considered the consumer advocate for the customers for the state of Kentucky. So they intervene in almost every rate case, a large rate case that we have. The other parties may have a special interest Again, they have to be represented by attorney, but they file a motion asking to intervene in the case. And the commission has the ability to either grant or deny that permission if they believe that it may help with the case, bring additional questions or issues to light, and help develop parts of the case. So these are all of the parties that are included in that. For LG&E, the intervening parties, again, the Attorney General, Kentucky SEIA, Kentucky Industrial Utility Council, the Kentucky Broadband and Cable Association, Sierra Club, Walmart, Louisville Metro Government, Kroger Companies, Department of Defense, the federal executive agencies. Again, that's a joint filing. And then a group of joint interveners, again, the Kentuckians for the Commonwealth, the Kentucky Solar Energy Society, the Metropolitan Housing Coalition for to LG&E. So, so the next steps. The public meetings, September 8th, we've had one already. So then we have tonight and two more. The first one was in Louisville, Jefferson County. Then tonight, then we will have another one in Middlesboro later on Thursday of this week. And then we have one more in Madisonville. So trying to cover all of the territory across the state and give people an opportunity to make public comments where they live rather than having to email or come to Frankfort. The hearing in Frankfort is scheduled to begin on Monday, November 3rd, 2025. It begins at 9 a.m. at the Public Service Commission offices. It is scheduled to go for a number of days, but we will have public comments at the beginning of the hearing. So at the very first day, at the beginning of the hearing at 9 a.m., we will ask if anybody has traveled to Frankfort and wants to make public comment. So the hearing is open to the public. You can come if you are interested in being there any or all of the hearing itself. The final order is required by statute to be filed by March 30th, 2026. That gets a little confusing. There's a 10-month period that if the commission does not file a final order, then the rates automatically go into effect at what was requested. Obviously, the commission is, if they want to have a say in anything, that's not something that they're interested in doing. So that is the statutory date of when an order must be out. There is a suspension date. If you remember, I told you that there was that suspension date of 6 months beyond when the rates would go into effect. The utility does have the option of putting the rates into effect at what was fully asked for, but it is subject to refund at that point, or they can wait until they get a final order. So if at whatever point the commission makes its decision, they can either go ahead and put the rates into effect and then have to refund back any difference if the rates are lower, or they can wait on that. But they are not allowed, if they wait, to back bill. It will be at the point of the final order. So at this point, this is where if you have questions about the process. Again, I want to emphasize the utility is not making a presentation tonight. As you can see, we are not going into any details, but I want to go ahead and flip to the next slide just so that you have it, because this is the contact information. Again, I appreciate that everyone came out tonight. We want to make sure that there's an availability for you to come out and make public comments in your community and not have to come to Frankfort. There are a number of ways, though, how to make public comments. And if you leave here tonight and you're talking to your friends and your family members and they say, well, I would have made some public comments, you can say, you still can. Or if you leave here and find out something or hear something that you want to comment about later, you can do that. So the first way of doing a public comment is to go to the PSC website. Under that, there's a drop-down of Contact Us tab. There is a heading, it's about the third one down, that says, to submit a comment or ask about a case. You type in your name and the case number, and it will pull it up, and that automatically feeds in. It will be uploaded in the filing within minutes. It's an automatic web form. Second way, other than tonight, is to send them to a web address or email address. This box is is monitored by our staff. It's the PSC comment at ky.gov. Again, if you know somebody who is interested in making comments, they are certainly either one of these ways. The third way is if you're still interested in just writing out your thoughts and putting it in an envelope with a stamp on it. We monitor those. It takes us about 24 hours once those arrive in our office to get them scanned in and uploaded. I do want to make sure that everyone understands that your public comments are, we will redact any personal contact information when we post them, but all of the personal comments are uploaded onto the website and into the record of the case. So anybody can read the public comments as we're going through them. They do become part of the record of the case. And I do want to emphasize, and I think the chair will tell you here in a few minutes, that the commissioners do read those public comments. So I don't want anybody to think, well, I'm just sending an email into the wind. They do read those public comments. It does help shape their decisions in the case, and they look through what concerns that you have that they may also have. So with that, during the rest of the meeting, I'm going to leave this up here so that you have the case number or the contact information. But with that, do you have any questions about the case process, or are you interested in getting into the comments? Yes.
Yes, thank you. There's a large gap between the hearing starting in November and then the actual decision date. Can we expect to actually have a final decision closer to that decision date, or could it be closer to when the hearing is itself in November?
There are a number of issues. I mean, like I said, this is a legal process. So after the evidentiary hearing concludes, there will be, there's usually data requests that come out of that hearing. There's time to come back to them. There's then usually a brief schedule for all of the parties to submit a brief. And then once all of that information comes back into the commission, then that's when they make the decision. I don't know that I can say exactly when it's going to come in. It kind of depends on what the issues are in the case and how much is being discussed and I guess is controversial between the parties in the case. Okay, thanks.
Normally, normally folks can call in and do virtual comments on the first day of the hearing. It seems like maybe, is that an option this time, or?
I'm trying to remember. We are having problems with the technical, so we have found we haven't had a lot of people that are calling in on those, and we really struggle to get it into the record of the case. So if that is something that people are interested in doing, if you will let us know on the public comments, we can kind of go back and look at it. We're trying to start phasing that out. That was something that came about during COVID. We have a lot of options for public comment, and it's really just a technical challenge to get that into the record while the transcript's going on. So, sure. Yes, ma'am.
Since capital improvements and construction for the sources of energy are the main reason for the increased request, in what ways do the customers get to influence what those construction projects are?
That's a really good question. In addition to your public comments, there are a couple things that I will just, all of the utilities, electric utilities, are required to file every 3 years an integrated resource plan. That if you are interested in getting really deep into their integrated resource plan as stakeholders, we can put you in contact with those folks, and they have meetings over the course and kind of a planning process to hear what kind of capital projects and planning projects are appropriate. Okay. Any other questions about? Yes, ma'am.
I've been struggling with understanding tariffs and who pays for them, and if those tariffs will be passed on as cost to the ratepayer, or if it's going down to profit.
So the tariffs are what customers pay. I mean, that's what's called, I mean, it's the tariffs and the rates tend to get interchanged. So if you're talking specifically about the high load and those sort of things, I mean, I think I I have to be a little bit careful here because I really don't think I can go into the details. It may be something, and if you're struggling to understand what's read in there and you have a question, then I would suggest that you submit that as part of a public comment or ask it tonight. I mean, but what I'm saying is I can't answer that for you. Okay, I think what I'm trying to say is I can't answer that question for you tonight. So that would be something that you would ask as a public comment, and when we get into the public comment period, or there may be some other folks here tonight that are interveners in the case that may be able to say what their interpretation and reading through it is, but I can't answer that question for you tonight because that would be interpreting something in the case for you that I'm just not able to do. Okay. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What's the case so does the word the AI sentiment? Was there keep that a different case number than the 20250013? Is that
So this case in this public meeting is you can search our website for specific types of cases. So the only one that we're talking about tonight is the rate case for KU and LG&E.
okay? So there's nothing that's going to be mentioned about the AI sentiment.
Not tonight, not as part of it. I have, if there was something, I'm sorry.
When will that be concerned to that?
So again, if you look through the case record, I don't know that anything has been filed to date, but I don't want to say that nothing's been filed to date because there have been some discussions about different data centers. So you certainly can make a public comment about that tonight, or if you are searching through the website and not finding what you're interested in, just reach out to us at our general website and we can try and help with the search. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, so again, I'm going to leave this up here so you have the case number, the public comment information, but with that, if we are ready, then I will go ahead and move into Glenn. Again, I apologize for being late.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Angie Hatton. I'm chair of the Kentucky Public Service Commission, and I'm joined tonight by Commissioner Mary Pat Regan and our new commissioner, Andrew Wood. This meeting is being recorded, as Linda said, for the benefit of the public and will be posted on the PSC's YouTube page, which can be accessed through the PSC website. I won't reiterate all of the things that Linda has already told you, and I do see some familiar faces. Some of you have done this a few times. But I do want to just stress that we know in any case proceeding like this, there are often strong emotions, and we just ask that as you provide your comments today that you be respectful of one another. Don't talk when someone else is talking. Wait for your turn. And that we will be keeping a timer. I think we're going to do 5 minutes each tonight, and please respect the time limit because that way everyone gets a chance to speak. If I let one of you talk for 2 hours, others are going to have to go with child care issues or something like that, and won't get a chance to speak. So be respectful of the 5 minute time limit. Again, there are other opportunities to comment. We still have 2 more public comment hearings coming up in, let's see, Madisonville and Middlesboro, and you can come the day of the hearing in Frankfort and give public comment. You can email and you can write us. Lots of opportunities. So 5 minutes each tonight, please. Commissioner Regan's going to keep time for me. And as always, if you do want to submit written comments, you can make those to the commission. Always include the case number. I think Linda already said that, 2025-000113 or 2025-00114, or both for KU and LG&E's rate case. The address at the PSC is P.O. Box 615, 211 Sauer Boulevard, Frankfort, Kentucky 40602. And you may email to us at psc.comment@ky.gov. And you can find all of this information on our website, which is psc.ky.gov. So I'll call the names of those who have listed that they wanted to speak, and you'll come right to this microphone that's set up for you already right here in the middle of the room. I'll go through the list, and those who have indicated yes, they want to speak, I'll go through all of those, and if any of you change your mind, I'll go back through and ask you again if anybody else wants to speak. But we'll start with those who have indicated yes, they'd like to speak. And the first one looks like Dr. Holloway. So as you make your way to the microphone, I'll just remind everyone that as you come up, please give your full name and your address before you start speaking, and then Commissioner Regan will start the timer. Go ahead.
I'm Dr. Holloway, and I actually live in Des Moines, Iowa, but I have family here, and I grew up here, and I'm down here all the time monitoring the things that are going on with this. So I'm here to speak for several patients, several family members, and several friends. I gave each of you a packet for yourself to review. I'm hoping that you will take the time to review it. I'm going to express that this money that these utility companies are wanting, they received payment for all of these meters from the Obama stimulus package. They then have to be replaced every 3 to 5 years because the technology constantly has to go up. So now they're paying for technicians, yada yada, we need this, we need these upgrades. The list goes on and on. They were touted as something that was safe and efficient and better for the public consumer. They're not, number one, they're a Class 2B carcinogen, so people who have these installed in their homes are becoming sick. Their bills are going through the roof. The medical industry will not talk about this because they have contracts with the wireless industry. I know this because I'm on the inside, okay? So the doctors do not tell the patients what's really causing them sick. Nobody's asking the right questions. I've given you pictures showing you examples of where these meters went on. People became deathly ill. Many people have died. Many people are committing suicide, okay? Even with an opt-out, people are having to pay to opt out of being made sick in their home. This is also a violation on the property because it's radiating everything in the diameter. It's killing the trees. I've given you documentation of that. And I started working with this in Ohio. It's going to be another 10 to 15 years before Lexington and Kentucky start to recognize all the damages caused. This is because it takes that long for people to be lit up and recognize what's really happening in the things around them, things noticed. An example, I kept coming down here to visit, and I was getting yelled at because the garage door was up after we'd gone to bed. All of a sudden, it dawns on me, oh, interference. The meters just got stalled here a year ago, and now the interference between all the meters talking to each other are disrupting the frequency of the garage doors. So nobody's safe in their home because you go to bed thinking your door's locked and your garage door's down, and now the garage doors have opened up. I've given you documentation in your packet there, and I've already filed the documentation there, but I also gave it to you all so you'd have it to personally look at. I don't want to run out of time, but these meters, they only last 3 to 5 years, and then they have to be replaced. And that replacement is being put on the customer, okay? They get a write-off. The company gets a write-off on that 3 to 5 years. This isn't costing them anything. They're making a fortune off of people. I have replaced over $2,000 worth of trees on my mother's property because those meters went in and they killed all of the blue spruce. I can go through this neighborhood, trees that I've grown up watching are completely dying. Anything close to a wireless water meter, anything close to an electric meter. I can tell you who's getting sick from what. I have been doing this since 2006, and I have been monitoring all the documentation. You guys have a reference in there for case files since 2007, where over 2,000 documents were filed with medical letters, documentation from pesticide companies. Ants, fleas, spiders are overtaking all the neighborhoods now. Why? Because they're drawn to dirty electricity. It did not happen until the meters got installed. Fires, I just came back in town, and one of the people who built their home the same time my parents built their home, they allowed a meter to go on their home, and their home burned down. I've given you pictures of fires that I know personally. The meters went on, the places burned. If anybody remembers the Rabbit Hash store, The old country store, Duke Energy put a smart meter on that store and it burned to the ground. And then what did they do? They donated money to repair it because they knew they were the ones that caused the problem. I've given you pictures of animals that the meter goes on, they're sick. This is all a time factor, it's an exposure level. As you get more and more exposure, the symptoms become more and more evident and people aren't putting two and two together. Because if you're in a corner home, then you've got surrounding meters around your home, so you're getting more inundated with all the firing between the cell towers and all the homes because it's a mesh network. So all those meters talking to each other are blasting the corner home. And even if you have an analog meter, which we do, the wireless meters disrupt your electronics. So what people describe as, oh, my water heater blew up. Oh, my sewing machine all of a sudden blew up. Oh, my stereo blew up. Oh, you know what, my washer dryer bad. So they're replacing all this equipment, not realizing that the meter has caused all the damage to the electronics. This is a well-known fact. And again, you guys are new to this here. This technology is so new in Kentucky, but it's been going on for years in California, Ohio, South Carolina, everywhere. And thank you. I hope you will review this.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list is Andrew Solsip. I apologize if I have mispronounced. Please correct me.
That's okay. It's my cursive handwriting. Soukup, S-O-U-K-U-P. Soukup. I've been in my current house since 2000.
Full name and address, please.
Andrew Soukup, and my address is 1240 Passage Mound Way in Lexington. I've been in my current house since 2007. Had an analog meter up until 2013 when KU replaced the analog meter because there were some trees in the way and they couldn't read the meter. And within a year of that happening, I got a desmoid tumor on my left shoulder, which is something that 300 people in the United States get every year. It's very rare. So I had no idea what was going on at the time. This is 2015 when I had the tumor. Took me till 2023, so that's 8 years of constant issues, plantar fasciitis, brain fog, all kinds of horrible issues, and I got an analog meter put on my house finally. We moved my mom and my dad down here in 2019. My mom has dementia since about 2004, and in and out of different facilities in Lexington and Nicholasville, and typical dementia, getting up and wandering, sundowner syndrome, having all kinds of problems. When I got the analog meter put on in 2023, we brought her to my house 14 months ago, and she slept 12 hours a night every night since we got her home. She doesn't have sundowners. It's unbelievable. It's amazing. And she was getting all the facilities were all smart metered up. So I have a next door neighbor in my current address who got kidney cancer in his left kidney about 6 months ago and just had surgery to get a tumor taken out. And a friend of mine that lived in our house for 6 months while he was having a house built out in Campton, Kentucky, got a tumor on his left kidney after he moved out to his house in Campton, which is LVRECC, so not KU, but still, he has the same smart meter that's being rolled out everywhere. So there's all kinds of brain fog. I can tell when I go out, when I'm in here, I can tell now that there's something going on with the Wi-Fi and the smart meter on the building and all this stuff. It's very strange, but we shouldn't have to pay for this, for these rate upgrades, and there should be some sort of opt-out at the very minimum. Not an opt-out meter, because that's still a wireless meter, but an opt-out to an analog meter, which they're trying to get rid of. The meter readers are all gone, as I understand. They're using technicians now to go out and do the small percentage of meters that are left. But people just don't realize what's going on, and like Dr. Holloway stated, it's going to be horrible. We're going to get all kinds of health issues in this state. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, Max Moran.
Good evening. My name is Sherman Maxwell Moran. I live at 4837 Kentucky Highway 596 in Germantown. I'm here tonight as two concerned parties in regards to KU and their rate case. The first party I'm here tonight as is as a KU customer, because in the city of Germantown, our electricity is provided by KU. And the second concerned party is as an elected official of the great city of Germantown, Kentucky, which I sit on the city council as a city commissioner. My concern with this rate increase is while it will increase the monthly and yearly bills for every customer in LG&E KU's operational region, my concern is for the people of our society that are on a fixed income, more specifically the elderly. My worry is for these people, will they still be able to afford their electricity bills should this increase pass? I ask the board to take a step back and ensure that there's a safety net to protect the most vulnerable of our Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thank you for consideration. I yield back my time.
Okay, thank you. Next, Lois Spears.
My name's Lois Spears, and I live at 3200 US Highway 60 West in Moorhead, Kentucky. Thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I am a Kentucky Utilities customer and a household of 4. We are currently we're in the process of purchasing our 2,200 square foot home that we reside in. Like many working families across Kentucky, we feel the pressure of rising costs in every area of life, from groceries to childcare to healthcare. The last thing we need is another monthly expense, especially one that directly affects a basic necessity like electricity. This proposed rate increase might sound small in isolation, but across Kentucky Utilities, 550,000 customers, approximately 450,000 are residential customers. This is not a modest adjustment. This is a substantial revenue boost that is being shouldered mainly by the residential customers, many of whom are already struggling to keep up with household bills. This rate increase, the rate increase like this will hurt working families the most, and the burden is not shared equally. It is not tied to usage or income level, but it is applied broadly and repeatedly to everyday Kentuckians. What's more, there is little transparency or assurance that this added revenue is going directly toward improving service reliability, investing in clean energy, or helping low-income customers with utility affordability. Before asking families like mine to pay more, Kentucky Utilities should demonstrate a stronger commitment to reducing costs, improving energy efficiency, and expanding access to programs that lower usage and bills, not just increase their profits. A part that I didn't write that I forgot about was for utility providers, we don't get a choice. We get who we get. It's where our property is located at. It's not like going to a grocery store and choosing between buying a brand of milk, which one is cheaper. You can't really budget for electricity. So I urge regulators and decision makers to reject or significantly revise this proposed increase and to demand fair, more transparent, and more accountability approach to utility pricing in Kentucky. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Mary Epling. Okay, yeah, that's fair. If you change your mind, I'll ask you again at the end, okay? And then Mike Moran. Didn't want to speak? Mike Moran, M-O-R-A-N. Oh, okay. Okay. And sometimes people's Y's look like N's. So at the end, I always give people a chance in case I missed one. Dana Casey.
Hi, my name is Dana Casey. I'm at 502 Limestone Street in Maysville, Kentucky. I have 3 major concerns. The first one is I want to know what the tariffs really are. All the way through, what do they mean? Who pays for them? Let's make sure that we're not saying, oh, the companies pay for them, but it ends up being the ratepayers who pay for them. The second concern, and I really want to know what they are, because I've asked, and I never feel like I get a serious or clear answer about it. The second concern I have is that we're talking about increasing the infrastructure in Kentucky in order to attract data centers that may or may not come. We're talking about massive investment into this infrastructure, massive investment into money that the Kentucky ratepayer will be paying, but then if the data centers don't come, we're still stuck with that bill. The third thing I want to say is that I'm very concerned these data centers are very, very high profit. So the ratepayer in Kentucky will be subsidizing for-profit industries by paying for this infrastructure. What will we get in return? Because the investors in these companies will get massive amounts of money, and it will be riding on the back of the poor people of Kentucky who can barely afford their bills now. Thank you very much, and I yield my time.
Thank you. Next is Liz Sheehan.
Hello. I'm here to speak about case 2025-00113. My name is Liz Sheehan. I live on Fontaine Road here in Lexington, and I have the pleasure of representing the 5th District on our Urban County Council. I have worked with my colleagues to make sure Lexington is reaching its net zero goals, including being net zero by 2050 for the county, and with a recent update to our zoning ordinance so that we allow and encourage solar throughout Fayette County. On council, my role is to make sure that our community members have access to a sustainable future that promotes equitable economic growth and environmental responsibility. Therefore, it is my duty to speak out against this rate case, particularly the decrease in the net metering credits, as it will unnecessarily raise costs while impeding the transition to a more affordable and greener Lexington. As solar energy systems have become more common, policymakers like myself have realized that these technologies can dramatically reduce energy costs, but take significant upfront investment to access. In Lexington, we spearheaded a program that helps reduce the cost of solar installation so that anyone, regardless of their financial circumstances, could access cleaner, more affordable energy. Alongside this program, the opportunity for solar owners to receive credits for energy they feed to the grid lowers their energy costs and promotes the transition to green technologies. This rate case rolls back these incentives by cutting the solar credits by more than half, making it more expensive and less accessible to utilize renewable energy here in Lexington. All the while, we are facing rising costs, a growing power demand, and a changing climate with more extreme weather patterns. The impact of these changes will hurt Kentuckians' financial and environmental health, especially our community members already in the greatest need. Recent federal action will hinder our access to green technology. Maintaining the current rate is one way we can still make solar accessible across our Commonwealth. And as someone who has sat through many hours of public comment, I really appreciate your time here today. So thank you for listening to the community.
Thank you. Next, Brittany is the first name, and
my apologies. It's Rothmeyer is the last name. Brittany Rothmeyer.
Had I figured out the R, I could have got the rest of it, I think.
Terrible handwriting. I apologize.
No, so do I. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Brittany Rothmeyer. I live on Mental Park here in Lexington, 40502, and I'm here tonight on behalf and as Executive Director of Fayette Alliance. We are a nonprofit here in Lexington that's dedicated to smart, sustainable, and equitable land use policy in Fayette County. We were founded in 2006, and since then have been advocating for planning and zoning policies which support responsible use of existing land inside our urban areas and protection of the farmland that the Fayette County economy depends on. Over the past 2 years, Fayette Alliance has supported the utilization of rooftop solar arrays to support renewable energy efforts in Lexington, which KU primarily serves. Rooftop solar is a critical component of Fayette County being able to create renewable energy by both individuals and businesses in ways that make the best use of our urban areas, our limited urban land, and protect our agricultural land for agriculture, as well as supporting energy production and the environment. The decisions made about solar energy here at the Public Service Commission significantly impact local policies about solar energy and have ripple effects throughout communities, as these proposed changes in fact do. We have advocated strongly as an organization against large utility-scale solar arrays on Fayette County's best farmland, and instead that our community should be using our existing urban areas, commercial buildings, rooftops, industrial areas, and more to accommodate solar energy panels. We have millions of square footage here in Lexington and Fayette County of rooftops to do this. Businesses here are already doing it with great energy and economically efficient results. Even farms are putting panels on rooftops of barns and more. We want to see that continue, and our community and environment needs it to continue. The proposed credit cut for net metering on rooftop solar arrays, or the revised net metering service tariff, would significantly diminish the potential for individuals and businesses to pursue renewable energy efforts on their own property, on existing land and existing buildings. This change would make it much less economically feasible for rooftop solar. Quite simply, these cuts would ensure that it's not an economically viable option for creating energy. This would be a disservice to Lexingtonians and other communities served by Kentucky utilities. Reducing this credit harms Lexington residents and threatens the way that we use our land for energy and for the environment now and for future generations. We ask the Public Service Commission and Kentucky Utilities to keep in place the current net metering credit so that people and businesses can continue to pursue rooftop solar as a critical part of its energy portfolio. Thank you.
Thank you. JP. Always? Is that you, JP? I do apologize if I can't read the handwriting.
Hi, my name's JP Always, P.O. Box 23118 in Lexington, Kentucky 40523. I am concerned that KU wants to raise my rates. They're plenty high now. Yet $6.15 billion is going to shareholders. And I don't understand why people who are investing, could be looked at as gambling, are more important than those of us paying the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Kara Cooper?
Hey y'all, Kara Cooper, 808 Oak Hill Drive, Lexington 40505. I appreciate you all being here. I know that you don't have to be here. We're very thankful that you're here. I wanted to, well, I guess I'll say, sometimes you hear from me in my professional setting. This is not me with my professional hat on. This is me as a KU customer. Rate cases are about numbers, right? So I wanted to drop in some important numbers. 5 rate cases in the last 10 years from LG&E KU. Nearly 20 years since minimum wage has increased in Kentucky. 87,000 disconnections by LG&E KU over the last, well, of their last data that we have, so July 2023 through June 2024. 87,000 disconnections, clearly indicative of the fact that people cannot afford their rates currently. Nearly 12 million, that's PPL CEO compensation in 2023. 6.156 billion in shareholder profits in the last 12 months. And this current rate case doesn't include the $900 million that was already approved for a gas plant in 2023, and the $3.7 billion in proposed new infrastructure from the most recent CPCN case. Those are staggering numbers, right? You all also know that I have 2 little ones. I've brought them before. They got to stay home tonight. The pie's not getting any bigger for us, right? But every 2 years-ish, we're being asked to pay more for our electric. Meanwhile, KU and LG&E have installed these smart meters that they want us to pay for, but they haven't passed along the savings to us in terms of the jobs that they've cut in meter readers. They haven't taken away our disconnection and reconnection fees that they charge now that they just have to click a button on their computer. They're not using those smart meters in the most efficient way to make our grid and our homes as smart as possible and to reduce our electricity through energy efficiency programs. I also wanted to talk about rooftop solar, which you've heard about a lot here tonight. It was just about 4 years ago that LG&E KU asked for a reduction in net metering compensation from the 1-to-1 rate that we used to have. So 4 years ago, the Public Service Commission did a huge process. You all invested lots of time and resources. We invested lots of time and resources, contributing to that conversation. And a decision was made that put a value on rooftop solar. That value has not gone down in 4 years. Now they're here asking again to reduce that rate because they didn't like the decision that they got 4 years ago. That's not fair. That's not how this should work. You all make a decision using the best evidence, and then they need to live with that, right? They can't come back every 4 years and ask you to do it over and over again. Meanwhile, let's look at who's cutting rooftop solar net metering compensation. It's not the co-ops, right? It's our investor-owned utilities. That's because rooftop solar doesn't make their shareholders money. It saves us money. That's not right. That's not fair, right? I also wanted to talk about the extremely large load tariff. We're hearing all about these data centers that are supposedly coming, multiple new gas plants being proposed for data centers that are supposedly coming, and we do need protections. We need a tariff in place before we build new gas plants, right? To make sure that residential ratepayers aren't paying for that electricity that we don't need and we don't want and we won't use. But this extremely large load tariff causes me a lot of concern. One is that it's for extremely large loads. But when we look at the proposed data center in Louisville, it's going to be a conglomerate of small data centers all in one facility. So does that count as an extremely large load? Or are we looking at each of those ratepayers, right, each of those companies, are they going to hit that 100 megawatt number? Or are they going to be sliding in underneath that? We don't need an extremely large load tariff. We need a large load tariff, right? And we need to make sure that we get this right because data centers are knocking on the door. And if we don't get this right, ratepayers are going to be totally screwed. That's not right. That's not fair. Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
Okay, thank you. Pamela Mitchell.
I'm Pam Mitchell, 2941 Candlelight Way, Lexington, Kentucky. Okay. I have one concern that I heard at the last meeting I came to was that our Kentucky legislators decided that we needed to basically use coal again for building the facilities that are needed for us. I know, and they wanted to go solar or something else, but they're not going to be allowed to. I think I'm correct on that. So that is a real concern because we're going to be building basically what we already have now, and it's going to be antiquated, and it's not going to be efficient. It's not going to save us money. So that's one. And then another one, I know this isn't direct, but the AI centers really concern me because we heard that, it will cost us, the ratepayers, what, $3 billion? They said at the last meeting over 10 years. It looks like that may have changed. But even Bill Gates says that if you're going to be paying for something like this, it should be the people that will benefit. Let's say NVIDIA and companies like that, whatever, they should be paying for that, or the majority of it. And at this point, there already are 11 states that are looking into various ways that this can be dealt with. But I haven't heard anything here in Kentucky concerning that. So I think that needs to be looked into, because I don't think that I should have to be paying for the profits. I mean, I have NVIDIA stock, yay, but, you know, I feel that NVIDIA should be paying for it because they're making billions and billions of dollars. So if they need those great AI centers, they should be paying for it. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Representative Adam Moore.
Hello, Adam Moore, 4801 Trillium Place here in Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you all. I'm a state representative. I represent the 45th House District. I'm part of Fayette and Jasmine counties. I'm actually a Bluegrass Energy customer myself, but I represent about 40,000 Kentuckians who are KU customers. First, I want to express my support for the proposed 85% tariff structure and the 15-year time commitment. I think that's a reasonable approach that some of our neighbor states like Indiana and Ohio have started to use, so I'm glad that you all have already discussed that and the initial proposal. Secondly, I want to echo the comments of Brittany Rothmeyer and Fayette Alliance. I urge the Commission not to change the net metering statute. I think net metering is one of the few tools we have to truly promote energy independence and the growth of renewables here in Kentucky. I also want to address the issue of capital costs for new generation and transmission. We see most of this cost is going to be from capital costs. I serve on the Natural Resources and Energy Committee, and at a recent interim committee, a joint committee we had, we heard that the new investments that are being discussed for generation and transmissions are not going to be not being driven by the need for future growth of existing businesses or bringing new businesses or expanding manufacturing here in Kentucky. All of that potential new growth would be the potential demand of new data centers. And I think that distinction matters because it raises the question of fairness. Who should pay for these new costs? If the infrastructure is being built primarily to serve data centers, then those costs shouldn't be passed along to everyday Kentuckians. To put this in perspective, the Toyota plant in Georgetown, with more than 9,000 employees, uses about 1/3 of the power that a single 100-megawatt data center would consume, and that's the smallest data center. I think that's going to be included in the tariffs. But that Toyota, of course, supports thousands of jobs, while a data center probably will only support dozens. So that's an enormous energy footprint with a very small return as far as local jobs or community benefit. So as we plan for Kentucky's energy future, I ask the Commission to ensure that ratepayers are protected from shouldering costs for infrastructure built to serve these high-demand, low-employment users. Kentucky can absolutely welcome investment, but it must not come at the expense of our people. Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Next is Pamela Wilson. I hear you. Okay.
Okay. So you can do it whatever you want. Okay, I'm KU customer. I live in Maysville, Kentucky, and you don't need to know the address because I don't know who's single out here. The minimum wage has not increased in 16 years. Why are we making life so hard for our youth? I can't imagine. I had worked for a short time as a Walmart cashier, and people coming through with $300-400 grocery bills. And now we want to increase their electric. I have this to say about the people in the data centers in our glorious state of Virginia. They are paying exorbitant fees and trying to decide today, am I going to pay my electric bill this month or am I going to pay my mortgage payment? So that's a pretty sad crisis to be in. I moved here 4 years ago. Bless my heart, my family's heart, they want me closer. But anyway, I moved here to be closer with my family. Now, back in when I was young, 1971, 1972, and my mother's pushing me to consult with a financial planner, and I'm looking at that person now, they couldn't advise me of what I'm facing today. So I bought this home, and I could qualify for it. I can live there comfortably, but I cannot take on what the state of Virginia is taking on right now. It's not only the state of Virginia, it's also when you talk to our people up in New Albany, Ohio. The ratepayers cover the cost of improvements for infrastructure. That's the bottom line. The ratepayers cover the cost of improvements of infrastructure. A 10% rate hike. I have not received that in my retirement, a 10% rate hike, okay? I've lost 10% of my weight, but I haven't got a hike, okay? So you are talking about now with the data center projects, with this rate hike and the continuance of how it looks in the world today, you're looking to put a lot of seniors out on the street. The data center projects, I don't feel that there should be any data center consideration without proven written documentation and restrictions have been written and adopted by the consumer. Before Kentucky starts entertaining, enticing data centers to come to Kentucky, they do not have the bed made. They don't have the business plan, they don't have the ordinances, they don't have the zoning, and they don't have the electricity. And I say that there's no data centers until they can meet with us up front in person. Them hiding behind silence and NDAs is ludicrous. Who do you want to do business with if you can't look across the table and shake their hand? And if they're going to be a good neighbor, they ought to say who they are. I don't know, when I moved here 4 years ago, I walked around and met my neighbors. Why are they hiding from us? If they're hiding from us, they're not good business people. So I reject any consideration for data centers, period. So my closing is make decisions with certainty, not uncertainty.
Okay. Judith Humble? And please correct me.
Yes, that was correct. Yes, I'm Judith Humble. I live at 144 Lincoln Avenue here in Lexington, Kentucky. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. So I have objections on several points of the case here. The first is to the increase in the flat rate and also the cost of energy. I think the increase in rate, as several people have mentioned, is going to cause financial insecurity for a lot of our population. And that includes low on fixed incomes, as well as working class families who are not making much money, the elderly, people who are on disability. I worked for several years at Health First Bluegrass. It's a one-stop care organization in Lexington that serves mostly low-income families. A lot of my working families experienced energy hardship and disconnections. We had a team of case managers who probably spent 50% of their time trying to help people pay their utility bills. And a lot of my families didn't have $5 left over at the end of the month. And so I think these rates are going to cause a hardship for a lot of our low-income families. I also think that the disproportionate increase in the basic service charge will threaten energy conservation and investments in energy efficiency. I have personally probably spent $20,000 making my 1920s home more energy efficient. I did that because it was the right thing to do in the face of climate change, but a lot of people are not going to be able to do this or willing to do this without some return on investment. And so if we make it ineffective to practice energy efficiency, we're gonna delay that action that we need to take badly at this time. And then I'm also very concerned about the effects of their proposed net metering change on rooftop solar. This is going to really adversely affect the advent of rooftop solar and the industries that provide this for us. I had a conversation today with the mayor of an outlying community who had a very ambitious and progressive plan to put rooftop solar on every single one of her city government buildings. She had the money set aside. She's been successfully selling this to council and the community, and now she's worried that with the change in the net metering rate, the return on investment will be pushed out so far beyond her term that the community will no longer support this project. And we need forward-thinking mayors like her who are willing to take these action steps. This would defeat her. And she was very worried about this today. So finally, I just want to talk about the effect of KU's business plan on climate change. We're at the 1.5 degrees of increase. That was a point of concern in the Paris Agreement. Climate change is here. It's not a future that's coming down the road for us. One group it's affecting is our farmers. And for the last 2 summers at least, we've had the kind of weather in Kentucky that's been predicted by climate change experts. And that includes these extremely wet springs with lots of torrential rainfall. We had a wet spring with lots of torrential rainfall, followed by long periods of drought. We hardly had any rain at all this summer, and people were hauling water to their plants. So I talked to one farmer who had replanted one of his fields in the spring 3 times because of the rain, and then had to try and keep it irrigated for the entire summer. That's a hardship on the people that grow our food. So I work with the city, a team that involves the city of Lexington, staff members from city government, and members of the community who care about climate change. We're working on climate mitigation steps for our community. And so the 2 of the pillars are energy efficiency. That would account for about 43% of our progress. And rooftop solar. That would be another huge mitigation step to address climate change. And so KU's business plan undermines both of those pillars. And so their decisions about what kind of energy portfolio they develop and what they ask of their ratepayers is going to have a huge impact on our progress in addressing this challenge, this great challenge facing all of us. So I ask you to reject the proposals for the rate increase, and I ask you to reject the proposal to alter net metering. Thank you.
Thank you. John Wilson?
Good evening. I'm John Wilson. I live at 210 Glendover Road in Lexington. And I'm here to complain and ask you to consider the adequacy of service on the distribution system for Kentucky utilities. Our neighborhood has experienced over the past 5 years, according to one resident's record keeping, over 20 outages in 5 years. That is twice the system average incidence of outages on the system, which is about 1.8 for Kentucky utilities, including major event days, so including major storms. So we're getting much higher rate of these outages. So I consider that to be inadequate service, and I would ask you to take that into consideration when you're setting the return on equity for this company. The second impact of this that I would like you to consider is on the gas system. In preparing a complaint that I filed with the commission on this matter, I spoke to over 24 residents in my neighborhood. Many of them have installed generators, backup generators, in order to deal with the frequency of outages in our neighborhood. That has in turn caused increased demand on the gas meters, or excuse me, on the gas pipeline system. And our gas lines are currently being replaced in the neighborhood. One of the neighbors I spoke to said he was going to go ahead and get a generator, which he didn't want. He didn't want to spend the money, but he has health issues in his household and he needed to do it. But he was denied by the gas company because they didn't have adequate capacity on the line to serve all the existing customers. And that with the work that is being done currently in our neighborhood, that would now be adequate. And you can imagine that this cost will then go into rates for the gas customers. So basically, the electric company doesn't do an adequate job maintaining the electric lines in our neighborhood, forcing customers to use a higher level of service for gas, which triggers a gas upgrade, which costs higher costs there. So, you know, I don't know how you reconcile this with 2 different companies, 2 different utilities, but it seems like kind of a clever little approach that they've figured out. Finally, with regard to the complaint I filed, that was denied because myself and the neighbors who co-signed the application did not hire a lawyer. That was one of the reasons given for denying the complaint. Now, the commission has the authority under KRS 278250 to initiate an investigation. I would consider that our complaint should have been sufficient information to initiate an investigation, which was all we were asking for. We were asking for information to understand why our neighborhood had had such a sustained level of outages over so many years. According to the neighbor who I cited the data from, this actually goes back about 10 years. He didn't have complete data, but it was more than 3 or 4 outages per year in the 5 years preceding the 5-year period I just described. So we've had a sustained problem in that neighborhood. In response to my complaint, I did get a call from a staff member at Kentucky Utilities who described to me what was being done in the neighborhood, and it wasn't much, to be honest. I'm familiar with how things work in the power industry as a result of my work, and it just wasn't a really strong response. He didn't know why the specific outages that happened in the past year. They just cleared the problem by resetting a fuse, those kind of things, and moved on. There hasn't been any effort to make a sustained remediation in our neighborhood. But I'm not just concerned about our neighborhood, because there's probably a lot of other neighborhoods like that in the Lexington area. And in my opinion, that's the point of the investigation, not just to deal with our neighborhood's issues, which would be nice for me personally, but to make sure that Kentucky Utilities is providing adequate distribution service to all of its circuits. Now, 1.8 safety rating is a perfectly fine rating for a utility on average. But if we're at 4, that means that some others are closer to 0, some of the newer neighborhoods. And the attention needs to be made to look at not just the average number, but the distribution. How many neighborhoods are at that higher level? And I would hope that some of the parties in the rate case would investigate that information. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay, I think that is the last name on here that had indicated they wanted to speak, but if I missed one, now's your chance, or if you indicated no but have changed your mind, now's your chance. See at least one coming up. Yep, come right up and tell us your full name and your address and then get started.
Hi, my name is Robin Kunkel. I live at 9 Euclid Avenue in Winchester, Kentucky. There we go. Need that for a short person. I'd like to ask you to reject all rate increases. Several over the last decade is far too much. There's no more money coming into our households. I'm on unemployment right now due to a job loss, due to funding cuts to nonprofits, which is not a unique situation. There are a lot of us in that situation right now. My husband's a substitute teacher, so our income is low and very unpredictable, and we have 2 kids. In order to be on unemployment, I am applying for 5 jobs a week that have to be documented. I have applied for 50 jobs and had 2 interviews since this summer. And there's increasing research to show that a lot of those job postings are fake. So I can't even verify that people are reading the things that I'm submitting. So due to no fault of my own, we may run through my unemployment and still not have any way to bring money in. And like I said, this is not a unique situation. I can name a dozen friends right now who are in this exact same situation, trying to get full-time work. And we have limited control over that. And so to expect us to have more money coming out of our pocket or risk having our utilities shut off, risk being exposed to more extreme temperatures that we're dealing with from climate change is just unrealistic and unreasonable. So please reject rate increases. Thank you.
Would you like to speak? Yep, come right up. Representative Camuel.
I'm Adriel Camuel. I live at 4413 Shagbark Court here in Lexington. I have the honor of serving the residents of the 93rd District of Kentucky in the State House, and that's the south side of Lexington. For anyone who is unfamiliar with our districting system here in Kentucky. I was actually not going to speak today. I had planned on simply coming and listening at this session and probably speaking at the November 3rd hearing in Frankfurt. But sitting here, I want to echo so much of what we have heard, and I'm thinking about the folks that I represent. I have a very diverse group of citizens that I represent, some of the wealthiest that live out on DeLong Road, and some of those who are working multiple minimum wage jobs, just trying to pay their rent, just trying to pay for their food. And someone over here, I think, mentioned it, or somebody mentioned it very well. Like, they're already having to make the choice between paying utilities, paying their grocery, or paying their rent. Not even mortgage. We have to take mortgages off the table. The average homeowner, the average first-time homeowner in Kentucky now is 38. So we're just talking about Maslow's hierarchy of need. They are trying to get their basic needs met. I think this is poor timing to even request any type of rate change. Any change that is made to net metering that would negatively impact solar, I think, is a detriment to Kentucky, not just, I mean, to the world in general. But the point I want to make is I feel like, or my hope is that you'll reject the request and do what is best for the people of Kentucky who are right now doing all that they can to make ends meet. So thank you.
Anyone else? One more? Yep, come on up.
Hello, my name is James Gallimore. I live at 4324 Calaveras Drive. I just asked you to reject the rate increase because basically KU is being pretty upfront about the fact that they're asking customers to bear the cost of their capital upgrades for attracting data centers. And frankly, I just don't feel like data centers are worth it. They're kind of predatory. They come into places where customers have already borne the brunt of that infrastructure investment, and they are environmental disasters, they don't create jobs, and they just don't pay their fair share, basically. So yeah, PSC's mandate, I see kind of an inherent contradiction because you're asked to ensure that the rates are fair, but you're also asked to ensure that it attracts investors. But investors aren't attracted to fair rates, they're attracted to exorbitant rates. So I just ask you to think of the consumer and reject the rate increase. Thank you.
Thank you for stating our conundrum. Anyone else? Come on. You're the next contestant.
Hello, my name's Laura Moran. I'm from Germantown, Kentucky. I'm a KU customer, and I am completely against any rate hikes. And I think if you decrease the net metering program, it will take away from anything that we've worked on for the last 20 years. We're just now getting people comfortable and understanding net metering, and it's come down in price. So I think that it needs to stay where it's at for people who want to step in and help the environment. I also am concerned that these AI centers they're going to come to Mason County. They won't be able to build the energy structure for these data centers quick enough. They can build a data center really fast. What they're going to do is support their energy with these diesel combustion turbines. Now they go through a loophole for these emergency generators. What do? They bring in enough generators to run nonstop. In Albany, New Albany, Ohio, they've got 22 acres of semi-sized generators ready to go. Memphis, Tennessee, nothing but generators running. Elon Musk went through a loophole. They said you can only run an emergency generator for so many hours a day. And he said, fine. He's brought in acres of generators. One shuts off, one starts up. One shuts off, one starts up. So our air pollution from not being able to support an AI center soon enough will affect my grandson, my elderly mother, and all the elderly people who are going to be within a 2-mile radius of the AI center that's going to come to my county. Mason County is going to be the special one that provided the increase in all of our rates because we're not structured and strong enough to tell the AI center, no, we don't want it in our farmland. They've got over 8,000 acres pinned to put AI center. So I'm completely against any rate hikes because they have the money. AI needs to support it from the top to the bottom. They need to have fire suppression. They need to bring in their own generators, their own electrical production systems, not the generators. So, thank you very much.
Okay, anyone else? We do absolutely thank every one of you for coming. If you've ever watched any of our hearings, we do often echo questions that we've heard at public comment hearings directly to the applicants in our cases, and your comments tonight will go into the public record as well, so it's as if you've testified. We do read them. We do appreciate you. And again, you'll have 3 more opportunities to testify in person. You can always email and or mail us comments, and all of that is available on our website at psc.ky.gov. And with that, we're adjourned. Good night, everybody.